Okay, we're looking at day 3, and what we're going to be doing now is just kind of finish up underneath the dash. Then we'll branch out to the outside and hook up our front and rear lights. Let me show you what we got going so far. Okay, we got our gauge cluster here all set up. We got our turn signal all set up. Now I'm going to go ahead and start strapping these down a little bit more and get all this here stuff set up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hook up our radio now. Typically, black is going to be your ground. The red is going to be your ignition. When you turn your key on, that's when this will be hot. The yellow one is what's known as a constant, and this is always going to get power to it. That's for the memory of the radio, so your radio stations and the clock and all that stuff stay in proper thing. And then your blue here is typically a power antenna. Now, it won't always be that way, but if you have a radio, you can usually go online and you can look for the wiring diagram out on there. Also, these little connectors like this right here, these really aren't that great. They tend to harbor moisture, and generally, if you're going to have electric problems in the future, it'll come from these crappy little ends right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to hardwire that in, just like I showed you before. You strip off about 1.5 inches of wire, you solder it up, shrink wrap it the whole 9 yards. This way we don't ever have to worry about it coming apart. Alright, we've got all the stuff in the dash here done. And the reason that we do this first is that we want to make sure that we have all these wires set up and leashed before we start doing our front and rear lights, because if we pull on them or things like that, you know, they might come undone and jostle up this stuff. So we need to have all this tied up first, and then we can branch out to the rest of the area. So we'll move to the front right now and hook up all of our lights. So keep in mind, we want to be cool. We want to hide all of our wires, so we're going to go behind our fender here, and then we'll put some protector on it and leash it down a little bit better. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hook up our headlights. We've got these cool little plugs right here. The left side, as you're looking at it this way, this side right here is going to be your ground. The other side is your high, and the bottom is your low. But don't worry if you forget, because the instructions are in color and they really spell it out nice and neat. Now, just like when I'm wiring other things, I want to make sure that I have enough wire for any future problems I may or may not have. So when I get this here up here, I'm not going to take this and pull it tight. I'm going to go ahead and move a couple of inches back and give myself a little bit of leeway. Okay, so on our wires that are going to our parking lights and our low and high beam, we have to splice in and have a couple of wires going to the left and then a couple of wires going to the right. So what we do is we find out how much wires we need down here by the left. It's not going to be much, and we'll simply cut off a little bit here, and then we'll get our brown for the parking light. This here will need to be a little bit longer. So, right, so now I'll go ahead and show you how to splice into these wires here. Okay, so first I'm just going to get a razor and gently take off about 1 inch of wire. Okay, so we get about 1 inch like that. Poke a hole through the middle. Okay, so then we slid this here right through. Okay, so we'll put it through and we'll wrap it to the opposite end of the shrink wrap. And we'll wrap this up like this. And that's what it'll look like when you're done. So we'll do that for a low beam, and we'll do that for the high beam. And your green one here is the horn. Alright, when you're doing this, you're only going to take off enough of the insulation to go up in there far enough to get a good contact. You want to go over this little edge right here, but you don't want to go so far in that it gets into the plug too much, because then it makes it hard to put the headlights on and off. And after I get these done, I like to tape them up like this. And that just kind of keeps the wires from jiggling as much. Keeps moisture out. Alright, we got our headlights hooked in, so now what we're going to do is going to go ahead and hook in our running lights and our turn signals. These sockets are looking pretty good, but if they're looking bad, they've got them new from Brothers now. And I'm not going to use these old ends right here. I'm just going to snap these off and use new connectors, but make sure you use a rubber grommet through there. And what you want to do too is one of these lights will be bright and one of these lights will be not so bright. So the bright one is going to be your turn signal, and then your duller one will be the running lights. So what you'll do is you just simply get some power to these and figure out which line is your turn signal and which one is your running light. Okay, so it looks like looks like kind of a purplish color wire here is going to be our turn signal, and our black wire is going to be our running lights. And another thing I like to do on these here is that they generally ground out well when you put them on your grill, but I like to run an extra ground wire and put it onto the housing right here just to be on the safe side. Typically when you run into electric problems, ground is normally where you're going to have your problem. So go a little bit overboard on the grounds. Make sure you have a ground from the engine to the frame, from the engine to the cab, and I like to have a ground from the cab to the frame also. So go a little bit crazy on your grounds and it'll go a long way. Okay, so we're going to be painting this truck a little bit later, next year or what have you. So I want to be able to get some clips on the lights so I can take them off easier. On the clips, you've got male clips and you've got female clips. So what we're going to do when we hook this on here, we're not going to put two male clips or two female clips on one of these, because then in the future when anybody's hooking up the wires, they won't know which one's which and they might get them switched around. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a female on one and a male on the other, and then we'll have the reciprocals respectively on the other wires. And this way when they hook them up, it'll only hook up one way and you won't have to figure out which light's which all over again. Okay, so we got our front lights all hooked up, so now we're just going to do our rear lights. When you are bringing your wires back from the front, just go ahead and put your wrapping around them and at the same time and stick them in the clips that are on there. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so you can see that we've got wire coming all the way through there. And it's just feeding back, so you go ahead and get those on there and feed your wires all the way to the back here, and then connect all these babies up same way as you did the front. These lights, you pick them up at Pep Boys, etc., etc. They're only $7. The kit comes with a third brake light wire here, so I just wire these babies in and put it up under here somewhere, and then when you step on the brakes you have this glowing light down here, so it's kind of cool.